Welcome back to another edition of the Founder Spotlight. Today I have the CEO of Monarch Beverage, Troy Brosnan. How you doing today, Troy?
Good. How are you, Lars?
I'm doing quite well. Let's start with you and your background. You've had a long and winding career from media sales and ad tech to app development. What first pulled you toward entrepreneurship, and how did that journey lead you ultimately into the cannabis space?
Both my parents were entrepreneurs. They both owned their own business and had the freedom that I got to see a lot while I was growing up. So I knew that I didn't want to work for anybody else really. Timing wasn't right in my early career. I got into tech and advertising because I knew where I wanted to go and developed those skills while working for Rocket Fuel, the Walt Disney Company, and a couple others in there. What got me into cannabis was the medical market kicked off in 2012, 13 ish in Massachusetts, 14 maybe. And the barriers to entry were just so high. You needed so much money. You had to have $1 million in an account. Coming from tech and not having any cannabis experience, I got laughed at over and over again for trying to raise money with no experience in the sector. So um, I kind of put the dream on hold. And when cannabis went legal, recreational in Massachusetts, my old partner Eric and I traveled the country to find out what we wanted to make and bring to Massachusetts. And it turned out that when we got out to Washington State and in California, we saw a form factor that we didn't know existed, which was beverage. And everything was pretty high in sugar. We started drinking Keef out in Colorado, a bunch of brands out in California and Washington. And we said, how can we make this better? How can we make this with no sugar? So we came back to Massachusetts and we worked above his garage for seemed like months to get the recipe perfect with no sugar, which wasn't easy, but we finally accomplished it and started bringing our samples to investors and quickly raised the money we needed to start Levia. So in 2018, we launched Levia. Well, not launched. We decided that beverage is the thing we're going to do. Built the building, got the license, and launched in 21, which was exciting. And we had some major success here in Massachusetts. So that kind of got me into the beverage world, and I've been in love with it since. It formulating, branding, marketing, talking with every other group to find out what's working in the markets has been.
Yeah, so as you mentioned, Levia was a massive early win in the infused beverage category. I believe you guys hit around $1 million a month in revenue within that first year, and then you ultimately sold to Air Wellness. I believe it was like a $60 million deal. What do you think ultimately made Levia stand out in a market where there's so many infused beverages struggle to gain any sort of traction?
I think being first to market definitely helped. We Theory Wellness by about a month, and having the shelf space and being first to market was definitely huge for us. If I had to look at the beverage itself, I'd say the fact that there was zero sugar, zero carb was very appealing, especially to mom. I have a couple diabetics in my family who couldn't benefit from cannabis because the sugar content was so high in a lot of the gummies and the other drinks that are around. I think, the branding was really, really well done too. We worked with a great designer on that. It was Sear Creative out of Cambridge. I think the combination of all that and the new form factor really helped as well in Massachusetts, where no one had drinks before. I think all of that combined to the ultimate success of Levia.
Yeah, and was there a specific moment where you realized that the brand had real momentum, or was it kind of a slower build?
So yes, when we first launched and everybody was so accepting of it, we were shocked. Actually, we were like, "Oh my God, this is actually a thing now." And we were having a hard time getting. We had to figure out distribution, which was not easy for us. Having never distributed beverages or anything else before. Luckily, we had a really great team. We had Will and Johnny and Freddie, who really nailed it. They were really the backbone of our success. I think we were in 187 stores when we sold to Air, which at the time there were 210 dispensaries in Massachusetts. So we were in about 90 some odd percent of them.
It's huge. So obviously you've stepped away from Levia and you spent some time consulting with some different THC beverage startups across the country. What did that consulting chapter teach you about the broader challenges in this space?
So I think the biggest takeaway from everything was that cannabis beverages aren't really going to make it in the regulated market. I just, after trying it, succeeding, luckily, I just think liquor stores and the HD9 version of these beverages is the way to go. I think that there's still a lot of people, especially canna curious people, that won't step foot in a dispensary, which I don't know if that's so much now in Massachusetts, but in emerging markets, I do believe that. And where everybody's used to walking into a liquor store and purchasing something that's going to make you feel different, I really think that this is the avenue that even regulated cannabis companies should be adopted to. It's something that people already know. It's habit already for everybody to step into a liquor store, and if you look young, you have to show your ID, but you don't have to show your ID three times to purchase a can of infused seltzer water. So I think that's the big difference. And when I saw a lot of brands getting into 6, 7, 8, 9 states just through liquor distributors, I said, okay, this is going to take off. This is going to be a booming industry, and kind of walked away from the regulated market and put my focus there.
So what's the dispensary? I've been to Massachusetts a couple times, but I've never been into any of the dispensaries up there. What's the process like there? I know in like Chicago, you have to show your ID literally like 3 times before you check out and everything like that. And Denver, it's a little bit more relaxed. Same with California, in terms of feeling like you're walking into a police station essentially. But
Exactly.
what's the process like in Massachusetts?
So today it's a little more lax than it was when the industry first started, but
Hmm.
you still have to walk in. Luckily, you don't have to get buzzed in anymore, which is nice.
Yeah.
Then you hit a little booth where you get to show your ID. They scan your ID. Then you get buzzed into a door where you go in and you can browse the products, or if you know what you're looking for, you go right up to the register and then show your ID again and basically get your transaction done and take out a different door.
Yeah, it's wild how much friction there is in the dispensary channel across the board. It feels very it's legal, but it feels very sketch every time I step in the dispensary. So
I agree. Yeah, you feel like you're almost doing something wrong, which you shouldn't. It's a pretty healthy plant that we're using to create these beverages, and there's benefits for everybody.
so obviously you made it back into a full-time role, no longer consulting. You're the CEO of Monarch Beverage. What made you want to get back into operating, and what's different about the opportunity at Monarch?
So I had been working with the Monarch guys on the emulsion side for about a year and a half, maybe 2 years. And it all started with Derek reaching out to me through a mutual friend. And he said, look, we have this IP for an emulsion. Will you play with it and let me know if we have something here? So we met up. He gave me some samples. And about 2 weeks later, I called him. I said, what is this magical stuff you have? I had to use so little of it. Actually, the first time I used it, I don't want to say I didn't believe him, which I should have, because I ended up getting so high I took a nap. And I basically used the same dose that we are using for 5 milligrams with the other emulsion. And
Hmm.
I really should have listened to him, because that was a very long afternoon and didn't get much done except a couple movies, I believe.
Yeah.
After I played with it, I called him and I said, man, I think you guys are onto something. But what's the pricing structure for this? Because most of the emulsion companies I've used were looking at upwards of $10,000, $11,000 per liter, or kilo rather, of emulsion with active ingredients. When he told me that it was only $5,000 for the same amount with their emulsion, I was shocked. Not only would that lower everybody's cogs, but you're using such a little amount to activate the beverage that you can you can barely taste it, even without using um, like a bitter blocker or sweet enhancer or any of the other things that we had to mask the last emulsion with. I got back to him. We started working together, and I really fell in love with the team. Derek, John, Brendan, they're all such great guys. And after a short amount of time, it almost felt like family. So I said, all right, this is something I could do. So we worked together on 3, 4, 5 different projects. I reached out to a couple people, started getting their emulsion in their hands. And then as my non-compete was winding down, about 4 or 5 months before that happened, I pitched the idea. I think it was actually symmetry between all of us that said, all right, we have the formulations, we have the brands. Why don't we make some house brands and get them out into market? So a couple weeks ago, we made the announcement that Monarch Beverage is a thing, and it's been a little overwhelming, to be honest. We've got a lot of inbound calls. We've taken on a couple new brands already. We're formulating for 3 big groups. We actually, the end of last week, added a marketing arm. So we'll have
Nice.
Monarch Creative wrapped up in almost like a one-stop solution for people who have an idea but need some help. So it's been wonderful to be back to work, to be honest.
That leads me actually into, or right into my next one. So Monarch positions itself as more than a co-man or an emulsion supplier, more of a turnkey solution. So what does turnkey really mean to you, and how do you structure that support for early stage or scaling brands?
Yeah, absolutely. So what we've done is over the last 2 years, we've built a network of co-packers across the country. We have about 16 hemp co-packers, and if anyone does want to get into the regulated market, we have about 10 or 12 states that we could get them into in the regulated side with co-packers as well. On top of that, I'm as transparent as the day is long, and I'll share all the mistakes we made with Levia, and basically my knowledge with anybody who's willing to listen. So I think having the marketing arm, the distributions, we're very, very close to 26 state distribution. We're hoping to announce that by mid-June. We're hoping to have that deal signed, and we basically can do anything for anybody, from formulation, branding, marketing, placement, really anything.
Gotcha. So, obviously, as you kind of laid out there, it's more than just, manufacturing. You're building a better industry model. What are, the biggest gaps you've seen? You mentioned mistakes you made at Levia that you'd like to share. What are those gaps that you're trying to close for the industry with Monarch?
What we're trying to do is lower everybody's costs, so there's actually a good margin for people to make. So what we've done with our co-packers is set up a program where we could fill 6, 7 tanks, and then they'll give us an extreme discount on the co-packing, so we could actually beat pretty much any price in the market right now. I think that's probably the biggest thing that we can help out with, along with distribution, because once this deal's done, it's basically we'll have salespeople on the ground through the liquor distributors working with their relationships that they've had forever. So we're not going to have to go out and hire, two salespeople for every state. That will all be taken care of through the distributor. They'll do tastings, they'll hand out our swag. It really gives us a leg up and it helps us decrease our costs.
Yeah. So you've worked obviously both in the regulated cannabis markets and hemp-derived channels. We have tariffs coming on and off seemingly daily. We have obviously the regulatory issues that again seem to change pretty much daily. How managing all of that? How do you think smart operators should be approaching the next 12 to 24 months as all of these different rules keep shifting?
So I truly believe that it will be regulated in the near future.
Mm-hmm.
I hope that they can pull it together in the near future. I would say just go for it. I mean, if you have a good idea and you believe in it, you got to go for it, because if you don't, all you're going to be left with is regret at the end of the day. Yes, things change, but there are definitely 10 to 12 states that I feel very, very secure with launching our brands there. And I don't think there'll be any disruption. One of the issues with that is the states that I'm very comfortable with, there's already upwards of 100, 150 brands on some of the shelves. How are we going to differentiate ourselves and get people to take our product to the register and take it home and try it? And I truly believe that our branding is going to stand out. I think that will differentiate us. And what's inside the can? Our seltzers are all zero sugar, zero carb. Our sodas are low sugar. We got it down to about, from when we started, we were formulating at about 48 grams of sugar, which is about a Coke or a Mountain Dew or whatever. And we got that down to about 35 grams, and it still tastes like a true soda. So we're pretty proud of that. And then we have a mocktail line that has 5 SKUs that they're very tasty and pretty low sugar as well.
Yeah. So walk me through some of your guys', if you're able to, some of your guys' house brands. Any products been released yet, or what are they?
Not yet. We're hoping to launch mid-July.
Okay.
That's if everything goes 100% in our favor. So we have Astral, which is a sparkling water. We'll have 3 SKUs. I'm going to kind of follow what we did at Levia because of the success we had. So we'll do 3 main SKUs in a seasonal, and then we have Stish Soda, which will have 3 SKUs to start, and we can add a fourth. That will be a ginger ale, a root beer, and an orange soda. And then we're currently working on an energy drink that I think I could probably get done by August, but we'll see how that goes. I think, like I said earlier, it's been overwhelming how many inbound calls we've got. So if I have to put our house brands on hold for now, it's not a problem to help other brands get to market as well. And the Cannabis is one of my friend's brands that we brought on board, and that's the mocktails, where he has a watermelon margarita, a mango margarita, mojito, and a pina colada.
With the energy drink, we've seen a few different iterations of those on the market. And for the most part, from what I've seen, a lot of those brands are kind of discontinuing the energy line. It seems that a lot of consumers are scared as it pertains to caffeine and THC combined. So, how are you guys going to approach that? That's maybe a little bit different.
Yeah, it's definitely different. So we're going to go 10 milligrams of THCV,
Hmm.
very small amount of caffeine just to give it that boost that you need, and very little D9 THC. So maybe 3 milligrams of just D9. And the formulations of everyone that has tried that boost in the morning.
How can the herbal profiles community support what you're building at Monarch Beverage?
Oh, that's a good question. I guess, I mean, have a conversation with us, see how we can, like, if you're a brand coming into the market and you need help, give us a ring, because we're here. We're more than eager to help you out, and hopefully make you as successful as we were with Levia, I guess.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for your time, Troy. And until next time, guys, cheers.
Awesome. Thanks, Lars.